Alright, I'm going to do a geometry video showing you what I'm going to be teaching in class when we're talking about different shapes. We don't talk about this for very long, but it's basically a ton of vocabulary, and I'm going to show you what they've got to be doing with that vocabulary. They are going to be defining a ton of different polygons, and one thing they have to know about polygons is that it is enclosed and it is straight sides. And so things like a circle, ovals, those are not polygons. So we're only dealing with polygons in 5th grade. They're dealing more with circles and things when they get into middle school, just not this year. One of the big things they're going to be doing is defining all the words, but then splitting them up and categorizing them based on different attributes. That's another word they might hear. And so they can sort these different shapes by the types of angles, sides, parallel lines, perpendicular lines, and I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But these are all of the different shapes and words that they're going to hear and they're going to need to know for this year. So you can tell this unit's a little different. It's not as mathematical with different operations. It's just a lot of definitions. All right, the way that I will teach this in class is we'll start at the very top and I will tell them we're going to talk about nothing but polygons. And there's different kinds of polygons. There are polygons with 3 sides, and we talk about that, of course, being a triangle. There are polygons with 4 sides, and of course that would be a quadrilateral. And then we just keep going up. Triangles and quadrilaterals are the main ones they'll need to know. Pentagon, they should know from previous grade levels. They're going to know 6 sides is a hexagon. They don't have to know 7 sides, but we talk about it being a heptagon. And then 8 sides is another one that they'll probably already know, being an octagon. We go into nonagons and decagons, but just so that they know, shapes keep going past octagons. Okay, but with the triangles, let's talk about that for just a minute, because triangles can be broken up into 2 categories. They can be broken up based on their angles, but they can also be broken up based on special attributes about their sides. So different angles of triangles. You could have a right triangle, so that's something they'll need to know. That means it's got at least 1 right angle. You could have an acute triangle, and that's where all angles are acute, and then you can also have an obtuse triangle, and that's where you have at least 1 obtuse angle. And then if we're talking about the sides, you could have an equilateral triangle, and that's where all sides are equal. You could have an isosceles triangle where 2 sides are equal, and then you could have something called a scalene triangle where there are no equal sides. And so we'll talk about how you can categorize triangles like that. The one we will spend a lot of time on, though, is the quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals, we spend a lot of time breaking them up based on the number of parallel sides. There can have a shape with 0 parallel sides. And this is one that's probably the newest, but that would be a kite, because it has no parallel lines. You can have something with 1 set of parallel lines, and that would be a trapezoid. And I'm sorry this is so sloppy. Normally this would go a little slower in class. But the largest category is going to be when you have 2 sets of parallel lines. And this is where we'll spend a lot of our time in class, because in the 2 sets of parallel lines, it can actually be categorized again, because you can break that up based on basically the angles and the sides. If you have all right angles, the name of that shape is a rectangle. And if you have something that doesn't have any right angles, but it has all equal sides, so it's the same but different, it is going to be called a rhombus. And that's a shape that's the most confusing to kids, that you might want to study a little extra on. And then the shape that is both of those combined, that is the square. All right, so what we'll spend a lot of time on in class is talking about different names for these shapes because they have more than one name. I always tell them, I have more than one name. You call, while the kids are here at school, they call me Miss Camp, but when I go home, my husband calls me Sarah. I am the same person, I just am called two different things. It's the same with these shapes. So I could have a triangle with acute angles and all sides equal, and it could be an acute equilateral triangle, but it's also a polygon. I could say that a kite is also a quadrilateral and a polygon, so it's got more than one name. This area right here can be very challenging because we could say that a square is also a rectangle and a rhombus and a parallelogram and a quadrilateral and a polygon. It's got the most names, and so we will spend a lot of time organizing these shapes so that the kids are able to locate or understand the different names for every single shape. It's a lot of memorization. You've got to memorize those definitions, but we'll spend a lot of time in class with this classifications and hierarchies and understanding the similarities and differences between these shapes. If you have any other questions, just call or email me and I will answer as many as I can. Thank you.